fabulous young woman, and I'm really proud of her.
She is just one of the greatest people in Ithaca. We really love her a lot.
Enjoyment of life, her willingness to be cheerful and ebullient and greet people and make people feel better.
Really dedicated to the Ithaca and Tompkins County community, I would say, or even more broadly.
She's an incredible sister friend, and she's an incredible role model in this community.
I was born in Harlem, New York City, in Harlem Hospital. I lived in New York City till I was 7. I went to 14 schools. It made me adaptable, you know. So when you're a child of a military person, you get to learn how to move, and sometimes not at the beginning of the school year. Sometimes it's in the middle of the school year. You know, I went to 3 schools in my senior year of high school alone. So sometimes you just learn to, adjust. I came here to go to Cornell. I didn't finish Cornell. So this is how my college life went. I started off, my first semester of Cornell was horrible. Then next semester it was better. And then I left. I took a leave of absence for 3 years. And while I was gone, I was at Hunter College for like a year and a half. And then I came back because at that point I was like, oh, I should really get my life together. And, I'm in my early 20s and I should just be a good student. And I came back to go to school, and my uncle died. I'd been here back about a year and a half, and he was 28, and so he was 5 years older than me, and he died. He had cirrhosis of the liver, and I realized at that point that I did not want to be here. Like, it was kind of like, I have all these other things I really want to do in life, and this is not one of them. So I'm leaving. And that was pretty much it. And I stayed in Ithaca, but then that's when I started doing, I apprenticed myself to an upholsterer and learned how to upholster. And I opened an antique business. And then that's when I first started doing plays.
It was interesting working with her on the performances. One, in several ways. One, because Christine is great stage presence, but funny thing to us is one of the very first shows we did, we came to realize that Christine is not one to learn the lines. So she figured creative ways to write the lines, and in the middle of the show, that's when we'll realize what she's doing is reading her lines from someplace that's not obvious to the audience.
There were a number of times where I would see her doing strange blocking that involved her hand, and then I realized she had the lines written on her arm.
I can't say that I had this lifelong dream of being a police officer. That's just not true at all. I wanted to do so many things, and I never really felt like I was limited to doing any one thing. So, police officer was just sort of another life experience, and really it wasn't one I had thought about. And I was in corrections. I was a corrections officer in a jail for 2 years. And while I was in the academy there, my firearms instructor said, "You'd be a good cop." I was like, "You think so?" And he's like, "Yeah."
She sees things in a way that's different from most police. If you get to watch her in Element, you watch her, when I say her element, I mean being around, the young girls or the young people that we as police officers generally wouldn't want to deal with, as far as on a personal level, we would prefer to deal with them on a legal level, whereas, hey, I'm officer such and such, you did this, you're charged with this, and this is what happens to you. From the time that something has happened and Christine is involved, by the time it gets to the end part, where a person either gets arrested or gets released, whichever happens, you can bet that that person will respect Christine and come to speak to Christine and talk about Christine.
Having a spouse, particularly a female spouse, be a professional police officer is a little challenging. For a long time, I wasn't comfortable with it, because of the way I grew up myself as a kid, I developed a very, 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 very bad taste for people in blue. It's part of the ghetto experience. Now my wife is a police officer, so how do I deal with that? I had to learn how the job is perceived from her perspective. And she took me to some trainings that she had where all of the officers were being taught things like, the gun you use is only to save a life. I had never heard anybody say that. It certainly didn't seem like when my friends were getting shot by police officers that they had come from the same school of training, but after you sit there and you watch them go through the training, it makes sense. So now that she's an investigator, I think this is perfectly suited for her. Her brain works very strategically. She's excellent at writing and loves detail, so I feel sorry for any perp who gets in her way.
One of the things that I love about Christine Barksdale is I love her commitment to the community. Christine, to me, epitomizes the term community policing. People see her in her uniform, but they don't just see her uniform. They see somebody who's in uniform that loves children, that is very creative, that has fabulous ideas about working with young people, who cares about the elderly, who cares about our community centers, who is a lot of fun, who believes in teaching children.
She really cares about community. You know, she did a lot of the community police stuff, you know, very invested in teens and youth and helping people really actualize their potential.
She's been very instrumental and almost single-handedly in making sure that the South Side has a productive and effective Juneteenth celebration. She's been very instrumental in our Kwanzaa celebration. She's been very instrumental in us getting several grants, including a grant to redo our kitchen, and the grants that come so that we can do Juneteenth and Kwanzaa Day with that.
I work for the Multicultural Resource Center at Cornell Cooperative Extension, and I do lots of different events that work to bridge differences within the community and to teach people about each other and who are different from them. And Christine is always willing to attend the event, to be a part of it. One event in particular happens this year, it'll be March 15th, and it's called Sister Friends Celebrating Women. And Christine is one of my women-owned vendors who sets up a table and sells some of the stuff from her store. She's a participant at the luncheon. She's just one of the people who helps to make it a very special event. She's very active in so many other kinds of ways. Christine is somebody that if you call on her, she will be there to help in whatever way that she can.
I started Diaspora 5 years ago. And initially my idea was that I was going to do this Black Women's Cooperative. There are two things in my life that I really truly love, and that's fabric and art in terms of possession type things. And I love art. So I had started collecting art, and I decided, you know, I really want to sell art, and I want to sell fabric, and I want to sell African fabric. So, and I like to shop. And I hand-pick everything. Last year when we were in Ethiopia, it was during a kind of high tourist season, but we weren't necessarily in the most touristy places all the time. So when we went shopping, instead of being in sort of the tourist marketplaces, we would go find these little places in these sort of dead-end alleys and, you know, those kind of places and buy stuff that I wanted.
It's fun. You know, it's fun taking something that you enjoy so much. I mean, we traveled quite a bit to Africa, as I'm sure came up in your conversations. We love African American art and things from the diaspora, ergo the name diaspora. The two of us together have a pretty strong Afrocentric identity, which, despite all the attempts to wash it away, somehow it is still clung